There you go. Okay. Um, so what I've been telling agents, because you're not the only ones that have asked me, you were just the latest ones to come in and kind of approach me about what we're dealing with in the market and what you guys are personally dealing with. Then what I've been telling agents is, okay, so one, I know this will sound a little bit cliche. You want to take it back to the basics, the things that um, maybe you did when you first started in the business, or the things that we did in real estate 20 years ago before all this technology kind of took over. One of the things that we used to do is we created a list. And so the reason I wanted to record this was as I talk about this, I would rather you listen to me than take notes. And then what I'll do is I will send you a link to the video, and then that becomes your notes. You can always go back and rewatch it and take notes later. But this way, we're able to kind of bounce ideas off each other and do a little mastermind, if you will. So one of the things that I started to do was I wanted to separate my sphere of influence, because I knew that my sphere of influence was where I was going to be able to generate about 25 to 35% of the business I needed every year. So that should tell you, I mean, it's not all of my business, but it is definitely enough to help me meet what we call in business our monthly nut, which is our overhead expenses. And so if I could just keep farming my SOI, that will help me grow my business in other ways, because ultimately, to really survive in real estate, you have to be a relationship builder. You have to meet other new prospective clients, and meeting new prospective clients goes hand in hand with working your SOI. Sometimes they're the same thing. Working your SOI turns into new relationships because they've referred you, correct? Like you'll take care of somebody so well that they'll send their friends or their family to you. So one of the things that we did was we created a list. Remember, I said we were separating our SOI into A, B, and C. And what this does is you take your A clients, these are the ones that you believe will help benefit your business the most. And there's nothing wrong with saying it that way. It's okay for me to tell you, I have friends that benefit me. They benefit my business. And so those are my A clients. Those are the ones that every month, at least once a month, if not more. I actually do it every week, but sometimes I feel like that can be too much. I reach out to them, whether it be a text message, an email, maybe I send them a meme, maybe I tag them in something on social media, or I mail them something. I'll make sure they get a postcard or a letter, but nothing personal. It's always very business oriented. Like, hey, congratulations, you've been in your home a year. Here's three of my business cards. Let me know if you need anything, if you have any questions, if you want me to tell you quickly what I think your home is worth today, I can do that. We do offer free CMAs, free market analysis. Now, the real point in separating this database out like this is what you're trying to do is develop something called your top 50. And these are your 50 most valuable people on earth to you. And this list starts to become your mail out list. It starts to become your high profile, high focus list of names of people that you want to engage with consistently, that you want to stay top of mind, because these are the people that are going to return the favor by sending you business or constantly trying to help you by putting your name in front of other people. Now, the good thing about that, and the reason why having a little list like this is so important, is how much do you pay to make this list and to contact these people? You pay zero. It costs you $0. It just costs you time. Now, time is money, but you're not actually having to give anybody a credit card to do this. You're not having to write a check. And so you cannot pay, if you had $1 million and you tried to use that $1 million to get this kind of business, you can't buy it. Word of mouth business, you just can't pay for. This is the type of business where I'll give you an example on what is today? Thursday. On Tuesday, I went on a listing appointment at 104 Rustler Circle in Harker Heights. I have no idea who these people are. I just know that they've called me to come list the house. Now, I will tell you, my office is in Coppers Cove. I do about 90% of my business between Coppers Cove and Killeen. So when I get a call from somebody out of Harker Heights, I question it, not in a bad way. I'm just thinking, how did they get my name? I want to know because if I know how you got in contact with me, then it helps me fine tune my business in the future and how I'm going to reach more people just like you. So I'm at the listing appointment. I came fully prepared. I had my listing presentation, and I had my net sheet. Those are typically the only two things I take on listings because I want them to pay attention to me and focus on me. I do have the folder to give to them so that they have something to review, something they can look at while we're talking if they want. But mainly, it's just I never want to show up empty handed, but I also don't want you to focus on what I'm bringing. I'm not an agent that's going to bring a huge presentation, a slideshow, spend 45 minutes teaching you about real estate. That's not what I'm there for. Well, anyways, we're talking, and towards the end of the listing appointment, I'm 100% sure I've got the listing. They've asked me to send them the listing agreement. They handed me their stamped certified survey. So I knew somebody that hands me their survey, their original copy of their survey, they're hiring me. So then I started asking them, I said, hey, how did you guys come across my name? I'm in Coppers Cove. And they said, oh, my mom. You sold my mom two houses and you sold my sister a house. And I thought, SOI, perfect. That makes sense. So I have constantly been in contact with Brenda Alexander, who I sold two houses to. The first house I sold her was in 2003. The second house I sold her was in 2007. 2007 was 17 years ago. So in 17 years of me sending her postcards, doing what's called pop buys, where I've showed up at her work because it was appropriate, or I've stopped by her house and dropped stuff off. I make homemade salsa. And so I will do that. I'll do pop buys for my clients and I'll bring them salsa. And it's good enough that they welcome it. And especially the ones that have had it before, they appreciate it, but it keeps me top of mind and it's super cheap. Maybe I spend $2 or $3 a jar. Too easy. In fact, the most expensive part of the salsa is the jar itself. So I do that. I stay top of mind, and I realized that in the long run, this is a money making endeavor or scheme that has paid off. Me talking to these people, getting a $450,000 listing, it keeps happening. It keeps happening, but it's because I'm working my sphere of influence, and Brent Alexander's in my top 50. And so I'm always making sure that she's getting information from me. So that's the first step. Develop your top 50. And this may be harder than you think it is to develop a list of 50 people that you feel like are going to be in your A clientele. Your ultimate list size needs to be at least 100 people, and eventually you'll get to where it's 500 people. The reason why this is important, every time I sell a home and I have a closing, I go to Vistaprint and I order a postcard. I order 100 of them. I go and I buy 100 postcard stamps, and I make sure that I have a blue ink pen. I get these from Monteith. They're actually the ones that work the best. And blue ink is important. Don't use black, use blue. It stands out better. And hand write the postcards with the addresses. But you take what I hate is when I see agents doing what I call a shotgun blast for mailouts. That's when they take, and every time they sell a house, they send 100 postcards out, and they're people that they've never engaged before. The problem with that is, okay, I get it. You're meeting new people. You're trying to introduce yourself to new people, create impressions. They generally will say, "Oh, cool! I got this postcard. This person sold the house down the street from me. It's good. I get to know. I get this information." That's not how you want to get those people that information. I'll revisit that later. What you want to do is have your list of 100 people and you keep sending them the postcards every time you sell. It doesn't matter where they live. If they're in your top 100, send them a postcard every time you sell a house. The reason is that Harvard School of Business, about 20 years ago, did research on the average American consumer. And what the data showed them was that 8 impressions is the magic bottom number. 8 impressions. Now, what an impression is, to kind of define that for this conversation, is a mail out, a sign in a yard, a billboard, a posting on social media that they see. Them seeing your face, your name, hearing your voice, that is an impression. So back to the Harvard thing, it takes 8 impressions before the average American consumer realizes who you are. That doesn't mean anything. They recognize your name. Okay, this guy Albert has sent me these postcards. Now I recognize Albert. If I saw him somewhere, I might be like, "Hey, you're Albert." It takes 28 impressions for them to consider doing business with you. Now, this is on the stranger scale. In other words, they don't know you, they've never met you, they've never spoken to you. 28 impressions. It takes 28 impressions for the average American consumer to know who you are, to recognize you, to know what industry you're in, and to feel comfortable doing business with you. In short, it takes 28 impressions to legitimize yourself in your industry. So it does not make sense to send a postcard to somebody one time. It doesn't make sense. Yes, could you get lucky and that one person want to do business with you? Sure. If that's what you want to do, fine. I just think it makes more sense to continue to hit the same group of people so that you can hit that 28 impressions, 28 mail outs, 28 of anything to get them to recognize that you are a professional at selling real estate. So now we've talked about creating your list. We've talked about doing mail outs. Now, one of the things that I wanted to mention to you guys about struggling in real estate or struggling in business in general is it's never a short road to grow your business. And if you are in trouble right now, today, there's not anything that I can do. There's no magic button, no magic pill that I can give you that will fix that. But I can help you work your business so that maybe 3 months from now, you're not in the same situation, or 6 months from now, you're not in the same situation. And my goal is always going to be to try to coach you guys into doing your business in a way that makes sense. There's only one way to shorten that road that it takes to actually be getting a consistent amount of business every month, and that's money. Money is the only thing that's really going to shorten that outside of doing the things that we're talking about here. You can always spend more money to kind of shorten the amount of time it makes you to get business. That's called buying business. I really don't recommend that because the cost to buy business is so expensive. Even me, I have Zillow. I spend $8,000 a month for about 8 phone calls a month. That's $1,000 a phone call. That's not worth it. That's really not worth it. And every time I pay that bill, I think to myself, hey, idiot, why are you paying this bill? Why are you spending $8,000 a month on hopium? I'm hoping that I'm going to get a deal so that I can break even this month. That's not worth it. Nobody would do that, you know? And so what you want to do is look at some business ideas. So we talked about developing your top 50, working your SOI. We talked about mail outs. Mail outs are really cheap. 100 Vistaprint postcards, stamps, and your time writing the names and addresses on them. I think the last time we calculated it was probably roughly less than $1 a postcard. I mean,
What do you have? What do you have on the postcards, or what is the? I mean, what do
so,
you?
Albert, that's a great question. What I'm going to do is send you an example of what one of our mail outs looks like. And there's going to be a couple of things that I'm going to email you guys after we get off this Zoom that I want you guys to look at that can potentially help your business. But I will do that. I will show you what my card looks like. And keep in mind, when you're developing postcards, what you want to do is they need to, what's the best way to say this? Um, they don't have to be necessarily a house that you had the listing. Hold on just a second.
tour details on your screen, please tap the PAP icon to proceed.
There we go.
Please wait while we book your tour in showing time. This may take some time.
Okay. So it when you're doing your mail outs, and when I'm going to show you the postcard, I don't want you to think, well, it has to be a house I sold. It doesn't have to be. It can be a house that somebody in the brokerage sold. You can literally make a postcard. If you have a lack of reason to do a mail out, you can literally create a postcard and say, hey, we sold this house. Homestead Real Estate, we sold this house. This is how much business we did last year. Give us an opportunity to sell your home, or if you need to buy a house, let us help you buy a home. And so there's that method. You can also do mail outs that remind people. You can go and look and see who bought houses this year. Send them a letter or a postcard reminding them to file their homestead exemption. Hey, I'm a real estate agent. Here's one of my business cards. I wanted to remind you, I noticed that you bought your house on this date. Did you file your homestead exemption? Here's how you do it. There's so many different things that you can do to put yourself in front of somebody free of charge or at very little expense. Okay. So be thinking of that, because the reality of it is, back before technology took over our business, nobody was buying business. There wasn't a way to buy business unless you ran an ad in a magazine. Everything that you did to get business was relationship building. That's how you did it. But who remembers when real estate agents were like real pushy? Do you guys remember that? There was a time in the 80s and 90s when real estate agents were super pushy. And when I got in the business in 2002, I knew some of these old dogs, and I always wondered, damn, she is like really pushy. Like, oh my God, she went to my client's house, rang the doorbell, knocked on the door, tried to open the door. And when my client opened the door, she said, hey, I'm a real estate agent with a qualified buyer. Let me in. And I laughed. I thought, oh my goodness, Dean Klein is out of her damn mind. And then when we went to closing, she handed my clients a letter, and my clients opened the letter, and it was a list of things. It was flashcards of things that she's accomplished, things she can do, ideas for the new home. She took time instead of spent money to improve her business. And at the time, I was slightly offended. And then when I matured enough to be able to think about it and look at it, I thought, damn, she wasn't the Wicked Witch of the West. She knew what the hell she was doing. She had either somebody teaching her, or she took the time to think, how can I improve my business and how can I improve my odds of winning somebody else's business? And she did those things. So the next thing you have to think about. So again, we've talked about developing your list. We've talked about making a postcard. One of the things I want you guys to think about, remember when I was telling you why you don't want to shotgun postcards to somebody that you've never met before, you've never spoken to, you've never developed a relationship with. If you are serious about this business, everything that you do in your work a day world, whether it's 4 hours a day, 1 hour a day, 8 hours a day, has to end with the goal of meeting someone eyeball to eyeball. I used to always tell my teammates, everything we do has a result in a handshake. That's your goal, not an email, not even a contract, really. You want it to end in a handshake, face to face with somebody. The reason why shotgun blasting postcards is a waste of money, where you might even have better chances playing the lottery, is because you're not creating that opportunity where people keep seeing you. When people see your postcards hitting their inbox every month, one or two things is going to happen. They're going to ask you to stop sending them postcards, or they're going to hire you to do business. Typically, that's the way it works. Yes, there is that middle ground where they just completely ignore you, but that actually really doesn't happen. Sometime, somewhere along the line, they're going to need your expertise and they're going to remember, man, this guy is always sending us stuff. Why don't we just call him? You have no idea how many times that's happened to me where people have told me, man, used to send my parents stuff all the time. And so when it came time for me to buy a house, I knew like, let me call that guy that's always mailing my parents. Believe it or not, people don't want to do business with a stranger. They want to feel comfortable with who they're doing business with. And so constant contact makes that happen for you. Staying in constant communication or top of mind makes that difference. So back to my point, instead of shotgun blasting a postcard to somebody, why don't you get the sold information? Let's say we sold a house in a neighborhood near you. Let's say we sold a house in that neighborhood and you didn't sell it. You didn't have anything to do with the listing, the buyer side, but there is something that you do have that the general consumer does not have. Remember, Texas is a non-disclosure state. What that means is the government cannot require you to give them the information or sold data. That has bled over to sites like Zillow and Realtor.com. They give limited information. They might be able to tell when a house sold and what it sold for, but that's real basic information. And in some markets like Austin, they can't even do that. So you have all the information that the consumer does not have. And remember, consumers are starved for information. They want to know. Some people will tell me, oh, it's because they're so nosy. Whatever. I don't care. They want the information. They want to know what their neighbor sold the house for, how long it took to sell, what concessions, how much real estate fees did they pay, how much did they make. They want to know everything, maybe more information than you want to give them. So the trick that we developed was we put together a flyer, a simple one-page piece of paper with a picture of the house, the address, and the information of it being sold with the agent that's going to be going and door knocking. Okay, here's why door knocking works or doesn't work. I hear all the time people say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to door knock. Okay, why? I don't, I'm bugging people. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Well, I mean, suit yourself. It's not for everybody, but the agents that we have on the office that do it are the same agents that sell a lot of houses. Here's why. So door knocking, as companies like Remax and Keller Williams train it, is missing the whole back end of why it's important. They tell you, hey, go door knock. This is what you want to do. Have all your information, introduce yourself, ask to be invited in their home so that you can talk to them about what their home might be worth. And so pick 40 houses that you're going to go and door knock that week and do real quick, 3-step market analysis so that when they answer the door, you can tell them, hey, this is what your home is worth. The reality is that doesn't work and that's not what people want. They actually care more about what your house sold for than what theirs is worth. They want to know. So what we did was we started saying, hey, okay, create this flyer, put all the information that we're allowed to put on there. You go and you knock on the door. You're in your real estate uniform. You have your name tag on if you have one. And with the flyer, you have a business card. It doesn't even need to be in an envelope. You can have it out with your business card stapled to it. And you just say, hey, sorry, I didn't mean to bother you. I'm not here to sell you anything. I just wanted to tell you that we sold that house over there and I wanted to make sure you had all the information. You have no idea how many times people have answered the door with ugly face, and within 2 minutes, they're asking you to come into their home, or they'll take the information from you and say, hey, thank you, I'm busy. And then later on, they're going to call you and say, hey, I read over this and I'm interested. Well, what is my house worth? How much did that cost us? Nothing. A piece of paper with some ink on it and a business card in our time. That method of getting listings and getting buyers, mostly listings. I mean, Julian in our office, you could ask him. He does that. Whenever he is needing more business, he'll go and he'll look for a house that somebody in the company sold. He'll create a flyer. He'll get all the data because we have it all. It's in the MLS. He'll go get all the data off the MLS, and he will go to that neighborhood and start knocking on doors. And we use a method called 10, 10, 20. 10 to the left, 10 houses to the right, and 20 houses across the street, if it's possible. That works so well that when he does that for 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, he always walks away at the end of the week with one listing or one new client. That is crazy stats. 5 hours to get a listing. Or you could spend $5,000 trying to get that same listing. The problem is when you do that, now you're interviewing for the listing with 4 or 5 other realtors because that company sold all their data to everybody, or these people just started calling around. Remember, everything needs a result in a handshake. And so if you go back to the way things used to be done, back to basics, and you're knocking on someone's door and they invite you in or you have the chance to meet them, man, you have just changed everything. Now they know the sound of your voice. They read your body language. They become so unguarded because you've provided a service to them. You've given them information that they wanted, and they've gotten a chance to meet you, and they've decided in 30 seconds whether they like you or not. You can't do that with all the social media postings, emails, buying Zillow leads. None of that is the same as getting in front of somebody. You just have to break down your own mental barrier to do that. And that's the hardest part. Whenever I have an agent tell me they're not going to do that, it doesn't bother me. I completely understand. It was hard for me, but once I started doing it, it got to where after about the first 10 houses, I was like, man, I could do this all day. Yeah, I've had somebody yell at me before. Um, I I got over it. I didn't care. I went and kept doing it. And then next thing you know, I used to do it in Turkey Creek. I had 5 or 6 listings in that neighborhood. And I was just laughing because I thought, how come I didn't do this 10 years ago? Nobody ever told me to do this 10 years ago, you know? And so that's the other thing is develop a plan to go out and meet someone. Sometimes doing it on a Saturday when people are doing yard work or having garage sales is the absolute best time to do it because they're already out and about. You're not ringing their doorbell too early and bugging them. But whatever you do, develop a plan, pick a neighborhood, and decide that you want to market to it. One of the things I told Julian was he could level that up if he would mail everybody in that neighborhood a postcard. He could mail them a postcard with sold data. He could mail them a postcard about the neighborhood. He could mail them a postcard telling them he's going to be coming by to hand them a flyer, But he could be pre-introducing people to him, mail the postcard out on a Tuesday, hit the road on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, something like that. 1 hour. That's all it took, and every time he does it, you can ask him, don't take my word for it. It works. He wins a listing or he develops a new relationship. Either way, he's networking and he meets somebody that could be potentially a new client now or down the road. And he did that during the summer. He hasn't done it since. It's still paying off for him. People are still in onesies or twosies calling him going, hey, I don't know if you remember me. You came by my house and brought me that flyer. I'm ready to sell now. And so trust me, these things work.
Do you think that approach works better or works differently from community to community? Like
Potentially.
Temple versus Cup. I mean,
No,
yeah.
I
I'm
don't
just kind
believe
of
it. I don't believe it like that, Albert. I believe that maybe higher end versus lower end. Believe it or not, a higher end neighborhood, they're going to be more okay with it, especially once they figure out that you're non-threatening and you're not trying to sell them solar panels. Whereas in a neighborhood that's majority tenants versus sellers, yeah, they're not going to be interested. And so that's what I meant by yes, I agree. There might be a difference in how it's perceived in communities, but between Temple and Copper's Cove, no. No, we've done it. We've actually done it in Austin as a joke. A couple years ago, we went down to a neighborhood in Austin, and man, every single house they took our information. We went to 40 addresses and talked to 40 different people. It took us 3 hours, but it was good. I was pretty hot and sweaty and pasty afterwards, but I felt really good about myself. I had met 40 people that I never had or never would have met before that would have never heard my name, and developed those relationships. And I ended up getting $1.5 million listing out of it. So it was worth, and I sold both sides of that listing too. So you do the math.
Right.
I kept
So
percent.
what method are you using, Rick, to secure addresses for when you do mail outs?
I go into the CAD. I'll go to BellCAD. That's it. Or the MLS. Sometimes I'll use the MLS, but I like using the CAD better because it tells me if they live in the house or not. When you look at the CAD and you see the owner's address and then the property address, if they don't match up, then what I'll do is I'll
Right.
send the owner a postcard at the address that's in the CAD, for his current residence, not the property. And then that means that he's got the house and property management. So I'll mail the tenant something else related to buying a home.
Gotcha.
Okay. So you plug in an address in Belcad, you plug in an address, and I'm assuming you're using the interactive map function.
No,
Um,
no, what I do,
no?
I don't plug in a entire address. I'll plug in, instead of saying 123 Main Street, I'll just plug in Main Street and it'll pull up all the addresses on Main Street. And then I just click on them one at a time. One at a
Gotcha. Okay.
Now, keep in mind, you don't have to do this every single time. When you're developing your list,
Sure.
you can do that. Um, and then what that does is that allows you to develop your list of 100 or 500. Um, and then what we do is we use that as like a living document. Every month we update it. Okay, we sold these people a house. These people told us to stop mailing them stuff. These people bought or sold with someone else, or they moved out, they don't live there anymore. And so every month we're revamping the list. But for the most part, it stays pretty current, and there's a little bit of fluidity to it. But then, I know that it works because there have been times where I have been out at like HEB in Cove or HEB in Killeen, and I'll be walking around and somebody will walk up to me and go, "Man, I finally got to meet you. You always are sending me stuff." And I'll laugh, and I don't know who they are. And I'll just smile and go, "Yeah, yeah, I hope it's okay that we do that." And they always enjoy it. Yeah, 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 that's pretty cool. Thank you. And so that's how we get the information. Some addresses on our list are organic. In other words, we've done business with them, so they're naturally going to be on our list, and we plug them in. And it doesn't have to be, when it comes to mail outs, it doesn't have to be all in the same area at all. There, in fact, our list of 500 is all over Central Texas. We just, every time we sell a house, we have a list of 100 names. They get a postcard for sure. They get a postcard. Now, one of the things we did in 2023, mid 2023, is we went back and wanted to revamp our list a little bit. So we went into the MLS and we looked at everybody that bought a house 4 years ago. We found 100 addresses of homes that we would like to sell. This way we weren't, marketing to stuff too cheap or too expensive. Homes that we wanted to sell. And then we went back with those addresses, bounced them off the CAD to make sure they still lived there. Once we had 100 pure of people that we knew, according to the MLS and the CAD, still lived in their home and they weren't actively on the market, then we started mailing to them. And that actually was a big deal. That made a difference. We started getting a lot of listing calls that way. We were getting 4 or 5 a week listing calls when we did that.
Okay. So you just gradually added to the list, or you just kept that same 100 that you
We
kind
kept
of
that.
farmed?
We kept that same 100 because we wanted to keep hitting the same people every time. The only time their name came off that list was if we knew they didn't own or live at the property anymore, for whatever reason, whether they, bought, sold, um, hired us to list, hired someone else. That's the only time we revamped that list.
Gotcha.
Because we want to keep it easy too. The hard work we did up front, and then we wanted it to kind of glide the rest of the year, if that makes any sense.
Right.
No,
Did the hard start and glided more, yeah, later
yeah,
on.
yeah, we did the hard work up front so that it was easier the rest of the year. You know, every month we did just bounce the addresses to make sure, but that takes like, maybe 30 minutes or whatever. Um, and that made it a lot easier for us. We gained a lot of business doing that way. That's what I would tell you
Okay.
of all things. Everybody's saying they need buyers right now. Yes, they do. They do. But still, he who controls the listings controls the market. You need to be focused on getting listings because listings will turn into buyers. They really will. Every time you take a listing, you should take that listing in mind with the goal of it generating 5 new contacts. Not saying you're going to sell 5 houses, just 5 new contacts, generating 5 new leads of some respect, whether it be someone calling you or asking you for information, and now you have their name, their email, or their phone number that you can plug into your CRM. That's the other thing too. If you don't have a CRM or some type of tool that you're using, you need to get one because they're worth their weight in gold. Our company CRM is only $50. It's worth it. If you have a CRM, please, please, please use it. Every time you get a phone call from somebody that you've never met before, if you have their information, plug it into the system. Even if you don't have their name, type in the phone number and say, person that called me on this day at this time. And then use that as a tool to generally break down their barriers so that you can conduct business with them. It'll take some time. I will tell you this, the quickest and easiest way for me to equate this or for it to make sense is when I recruit agents. Never do I go on a recruiting call thinking, yeah, as soon as this call's over, I got them. Sometimes it takes me 6 months. Sometimes it takes me 2 years to get them to move over to our brokerage. But I always stay in contact with them and I never come on so strong that they think, man, well, he was desperate for me to sign right now. Same thing with networking buyers and sellers. Put your information out there, continue to give them information, create a sense of usefulness with them, and they will call you. They'll want to do business with you. The only way you're going to lose out to them is, guess what? Somebody else was in their sphere of influence. A family or friend did business with them and they went that way. And we already talked about that. You can't buy that business. Have you ever had a past client drag a client to you and say, this was my realtor, use them? That happened. We see that happen all the time. You can't pay for that kind of business. You can't. And you would not be surprised at how many times those people have told you, oh, yeah, I saw that house. I was using somebody else, but my mom told me I had to use you, so I am. And you're like, damn, I just stole this person from somebody because of my SOI, you know?
Now that's $50 a month or what?
Yeah, $50 a month for, we use a company called Follow Up Boss. Follow Up Boss, we ended up after going through
Yeah, I
five
think
different CRMs.
back, yeah.
What's that?
I said, yeah, I think I researched them a while back.
Do you know
Follow up ball.
do you know who owns them?
No,
They're owned by Zillow.
Zillow. Okay.
Everybody thinks Zillow is the enemy, and they kind of are. But if you can't beat them, join them type of mentality, I guess. Plus, we figured out how user friendly Follow Up Boss was compared to Top Producer, compared to Commissions Inc. or Sync or KV Core or Lead Street or Tiger Lead. These are all, I'm literally naming all the companies that we've used and been like, man, some of these systems, you need to be like a doctor to understand them. Follow Up Boss, it was like super simple. It's all right there, you know? Um,
So Follow Up Boss is available to us for $50 a month.
mhm. Yep. Yep.
And what you're saying is correct, Rick. And I hadn't thought about it that way. I don't know why, but I hadn't thought about it that way. I just opened up my MLS and I'm looking at the listings that Albert and I have right now. And we have 4 listings. Uh, total list price value of all 4 listings is right around 2.5 million
Look at that.
in
That's a lot
in
from.
four listings.
Yeah.
And
Wow, that's
each one of the listings came out of our circle of influence.
I'm telling you, man.
It's not new people. It's not people that don't know us. It's people that I've known for years.
You should not have to buy business. I feel obligated to buy business because I'm a broker, but I hate that sense of guilt that I have to the agents. The reality of it is I wish that because this may be the first time you're hearing me say this, some of the agents that have been with me for the last 10 years have heard it and heard it and heard it, and I can't pound it into them enough. They're just self-resistant. Maybe it's shyness, fear, stubbornness. I literally have had an agent tell me, I'm absolutely not doing that. And I'm thinking in my head, you're absolutely not going to make it in this business. Uh,
Yeah.
you have to be willing to do that. Anytime you read or hear somebody's success story, never once was it like, so I woke up, the sun was shining, these cherubs were singing to me, and all of a sudden I have money in my bank account. That's never the case. It's always like, I had to
Be
get,
nice.
yeah, I had to put my big boy pants on and I had to go do something I didn't want to do. And then eventually it paid off. That's how our business is, it's tough. There's a reason that so many people don't make it. But I'm telling you, if you become a gumshoe, old school detective, you will get out there, meet people, make money. If you got it into your mindset that every day you just simply wanted to meet one new person, I mean, all my sources tell me that you need to meet five new people a day. But let's say you said, I want to meet one new person, your business will grow for it. I promise you. I promise you. And every time you meet somebody, jot their information down, put it in your CRM because you'll forget if you don't. You'll forget, and then start to know your client, your past clients, get to really know them, understand who they're like, who they are as people, their birthdays, their favorite football team, their favorite baseball team, stuff like that. And then once you find out who their favorite baseball team, start sending them Giants logos. And uh, you know, that was a joke, by the way. But
Well, that's yeah,
start sending them New York Giants or Dallas Cowboy stuff.
yeah, giant.
But get to understand who your clients are. And something that else we do, I can't remember the name of the service because I don't personally do it. My assistant does, so I will get this information. $5 on their birthday. You go and you steal a photo from their Facebook of them or of them and their kids or something like that, something important. You upload it into this site and it mails them that picture with your information on the back, saying, hey, happy birthday. I hope you don't mind. I stole this picture from your Facebook. And I just wanted to uh, tell you, hey, happy birthday. Like, and thank you for allowing me to help you. When we started doing that about 5 years ago, I have since gone on listing appointments, walked in the house and seen that picture that I sent them on the wall and been like, damn, that's how they remembered me. Every time they looked at that photo, they thought of me. That's a trip, those type of things work. Um, little stuff makes a big difference. Something that I did spend money on that I felt like paid dividends is I went on to an advertising site. It might be, you might want to look at Vistaprint or 4imprint, one of those sites, because the one we used to use was called Flamingo, doesn't exist anymore, and so we switched who we use. I actually don't even think we're mailing these out anymore, but they were so effective, I don't know why. And what it was called Kitchen Measures. It was a magnet that you slap on a fridge. It had my picture, my information. In fact, I have an example of it on our refrigerator in the cafe in the office, and it had the kitchen measures. The reason why we did that, it was not something that had an expiration date on it. If you mail somebody a calendar or something like that, that's only good for 12 months. You mail them something like kitchen measures, they slap it on their fridge, it stays there forever, forever. Like the picture is so old, I look like a child. And still to this day, I will go into people's houses when they call me and see that and just smile and go, damn, I paid $200 for a box of those like 15 years ago. And uh, that's what you want is marketing materials that have longevity. And so be thoughtful in that process as well. Think about what you're doing. Don't just sign up for something and boom, send it to them because if it's got an expiration date on it, it's only good for that amount of time. And, you know, would you mail your client a piece of chicken? No. Why? Because by the time it got there, it's bad. Think of that when you're doing your marketing as well. You want to do things that they could use forever and ever and ever. So that was an example of something that was very inexpensive that we put in the mail and sent to people by the hundreds. That like I said, never had an expiration date on it. Your main focus when you're out every day looking at for business, go after listings. You'll run into buyers doing that. How do buyers find realtors is so very different from how sellers find realtors. The problem is that how buyers find realtors, they are completely inundated with real estate agents where sellers are not, surprisingly. People never think to just hit sellers up and be intentional about it and just kind of continue to do it. Be cyclic every month, you're getting something from me. People don't treat buyers that way, and people definitely don't treat sellers that way. And so find your niche, find your area, whether it's the same neighborhood you live in or a neighborhood that you want to market to or an area that you're completely comfortable with, and designate that as your sphere and go after it and get to the point to where in a year's time you can walk around that neighborhood and you're a celebrity. That's what your goal has to be, is that you want everybody in that neighborhood to know you. Because those people are going to be more likely to do business with you. There's always going to be things you're not going to be able to overcome. Another agent doing the same thing that's been doing it longer than you, family member, friend, they've already done business with them, so they trust them more than you because they don't know you. You can't focus on those things. You're never going to beat those people, but everybody else is for the pickings. Go get that business and go earn it. And those are some of the simple steps to start off. I will tell you this: you can be super successful in real estate and do it in under 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, just doing that. Do you know what we call that in the business? That's prospecting. That's
I
all
was going to
it is.
say farming was what I was prospecting in.
Prospecting. If
Yeah.
you're out there and you're mining for gold, you're gonna find gold. You will find gold. You may not find enough right away, but you will find gold. That's why it's prospecting, and so sit down and in 15 minutes, you can have your marketing plan for you, your work, your task. You can have that ready to go and start implementing it right away and do it at very little out-of-pocket expense, because the idea in this business is already expensive enough with the things that you're required to pay: your broker's $100 a month fee, your board dues, your MLS dues, your Trek licensing fees, your super key. You already have enough expenses: the cost to buy business cards, the cost to buy yard signs, to put gas in your car. All these things are already, and you can't really get around those too much. They're required. So why go out and create another $4,000 or $5,000 a month worth of expenses because you're trying to buy business? Do it, these things that are free, that have always been there, that agents from the 90s and 80s had to do to get business. People miss that stuff. Remember, the consumer is starved for information. How do you know that? Look at what's on social media. There's a lot of, hey, I'm doing this today. Hey, here's a picture of my kid. But there's also a lot of, hey, this was in the news. Look at Cove Hot Topics. Cove Hot Topics are always spreading the word of what's going on in town. That is because people want to know And we are in the information age. And so if you give your neighbor the information when it comes to real estate, they're going to remember that and they'll be thankful for it. I promise you that. I've never had someone go, I can't even believe you brought me this information. They never do. They're always like, oh, okay, man, I get a lot of solicitors. That's why we have that no solicitor sign. And I say, oh, I'm not a solicitor. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm trying to give you information free of charge. Here's the information. Nice to meet you. I'm Rick, by the way. Thank you. And I try to keep everything under 30 seconds or a minute so that I'm really, truly not inconveniencing them. And I will tell them like this. I will ring a doorbell. If they answer, I will hand them the information, make sure that I'm not trying to sell them something. Very quickly, I have it scripted. Hey, sorry to bother you. My name is Rick. I sold this house over here, and I wanted to give you the information on what they sold it for and everything that went with that. You would be surprised if I can get that out before they say anything. It changes their whole perspective of why I rang their doorbell. Because sometimes ringing somebody's doorbell is like you killed them, you robbed one of their kids or something. They're so offended, But if I'm very quick to say, hey, I'm Rick, I sold this house over here and I just wanted to give you this information. Here you go. I just wanted to make sure that you and your neighbors knew how the transaction went, what we sold it for, how many days it was on the market. That way, if you have any questions for your realtor, for me or anybody, you kind of understand the process. And I start to walk away. I walk away before they initiate the end of the conversation, because then I can tell. A lot of times they'll go, whoa, 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 hey, what's your name again? And I'll tell them, and then I know, okay, boom, got them. And that may only happen, 20% of the time, but that's all I need. I only need one person to let me list their house before I've made all of my expenses back from all the door knocking for like an entire 3 months or something. It's wild. Your rate of return on something like that is through the roof. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
Now, keep in mind also, selling real estate and marketing yourself is like, when you get a chance, draw a stadium. Let's say the stadium is a circle. All right. And think of a method that you use to get people to use you to buy or sell real estate. Something is posting on Facebook. Okay, so now you take your circle and you draw two lines. That symbolizes the door. Okay, so now you've created one door. Now let's say your stadium needs to hold at least 100 people. All right, let's just keep the number real low, like 100 people. How do you fit 100 people through that door quickly? Reality of it is you can't. Think of a football stadium that holds 60,000 people. If they only had one entrance, people would never get to their seats on time for the game to start. So you talk about one thing, social media. All right. Now let's talk about mail outs. Okay. So draw two more lines. Now you have a second entrance, and you do that all the way around your stadium. The point is that you're trying to create as many opportunities for people to see you and know you, to fill your stadium. And so to do that, you can't just rely on one thing. Prospecting is several different opportunities that you're creating for yourself: mail outs, social media, door knocking, signs in yards, billboards, anything that you can afford to do that makes sense to your monthly budget to allow you to fill your stadium. Be having that mindset and be innovative and be creative. Don't just take my ideas. Think of your own ideas. Go, hey, let me think, how can I fill my stadium faster? And create that method and decide what it is. And having conversations with people like me can maybe help kind of spark your creativity in doing so. And because that's what you want to do, is you want to create as many impressions as possible. Yes, 94 to 97% of the consumers are on sites like Zillow or Realtor.com. Have you ever asked Zillow or Realtor.com what their rate of return is on your money?
No.
Has that ever occurred to you to ask? No, most people don't. If you called Zillow right now and said, hey, I'm interested in buying into Zillow, I want to become a premier agent, I want to know what the cost is, but I'd also like to see what the rate of return is. The rate of return on average is 4%. So that means every 100 people that call Zillow, only 4 of them actually hire a Zillow agent and buy a house or sell a house. Okay. So what that's telling you is that though that is the most expensive way to do it, and yes, that 94 to 97% of the consumers start their home search on the internet, that's not how they end up with their realtor. It's common sense. If it's only 4.5 to 5% rate of return, that's what they advertise. That's what they advertise. Some experts say it's actually only 1%. Zillow will tell you, well, we've had some people get as high as 12%. Okay, let's go with that. Let's say 12%. You're charging me X amount of dollars to only be hope that I can get a 12% return on my money. Whereas if I did something else, it was way cheaper. I could get a 20% to 100% return on my money. Get out of here. So you need to think like that. You need to think like that. If all of these people are starting their search on the internet, but they're not using those agents, they're finding their agent a different way. And it becomes our job to think about it, to process that and figure out what is that way? What is that method? What are they doing to get that business? If their rate of return is they advertise 4 or 5%, they'll tell you that some people get 12.5%. Okay, well, where are the other people then? How are they getting their business? That's going to become my number one job, is to find that. And I'm telling you, it's mail outs, it's door knocking, it's building relationships, going and meeting people, doing pop buys. Okay. As you get further along in your business, we can talk about things like client appreciation get togethers, doing different things to bring your people together so that you stay top of mind, so that you stay in front of them, and boom, you're done. Some people go as far as doing like a podcast or doing Facebook Live, like, hey, it's me again. I'm Joe. I'm out here at one of my listings. I just wanted to kind of talk about it to you real quick. Here's some things that I want you to think about. Here's what the mortgage payment is going to be. But hey, the mortgage payment may be this, but I've got some ideas to even make that cheaper. Call me and find out. I want to talk to you about it. Doing stuff like that that's under a minute and posting those things, that's another free thing that you can do to grow your business. It's so important to do those things because they're all out there. The reason why companies like Zillow, and again, I'm not talking about bad about Zillow. I don't want you to think that. But the reason why those companies have been able to make so much money is because real estate agents were afraid, were nervous, were shy, were intimidated. And so we would just rather write a check to somebody to do the hard work for us and bring the business to us than us go out and get it for free because we just don't want to. But think about how much money we could all save if we just went back to those basics and did those things that the agents that came before us had to do to get business. Before the internet was a thing, what did realtors do? Man, they walked around the grocery store with their name tag on. I know of a Remax agent who has a suit that says it's got Remax all over it. He wears a suit and then he goes to the grocery store and he helps people bag their groceries and he makes $1 million a year in commission. What does it cost him? He had to pay for the suit once and then his time. He'll go there on like he knows when like the grocery stores are real busy and when they're short staffed. And so he got their permission to go in there and help them, but he didn't start off with their permission. He would just walk in and start helping people bag their groceries. And he thought, well, if they don't want me here, they'll throw me out or call the cops. But either way, I'm going to do this until they tell me I can't. I'm not taking no for an answer. And he does, and he makes $1 million a year in income, not $1 million in production, $1 million in commission, just from helping people bag their groceries. And then he doesn't have to overly engage them. He doesn't act like a salesperson and force his business onto them. They see the suit, they see the name tag. And so if they want to, they ask for his business, they ask for his card, they ask for his information. And it's more than enough to support his entire business. He does no other marketing. Be creative in a way that will help sustain your business. Because here's the other thing I want you to think about this. Sustainability is spending $8,000 a month of the brokerage's money on Zillow sustainable. No, it's not. If something happens to me, that bill still got to get paid. Nobody's going to pick up that. Nobody wants an $8,000 a month bill. I don't want it. Those things aren't sustainable. But going out there and earning the business the other way, it's very sustainable so that you're not having to sign a purchase contract to send somebody money every month. You're just out there doing it. When you decide to stop, you get to stop for free. And so be thinking about those things and being creative in your business. It makes a world of difference, you know. Um, so having said that and shoved a lot of information down your throat, I want to end shortly. But I hope that I've been able to help you guys, and we need to kind of revisit this again in a few weeks and have this conversation and see what is the next step. And in the meantime, I do want to send you an example of the postcard. I want to send you I'm going to go back and review a YouTube link that I have. If it holds weight, I'll send that to you also. And then if there's anything else you need me to send you, just let me know.
Okay. This was
Sounds good.
great. This was great. It really sounds like Albert and I really need to focus on getting back to the basics
Yes.
of old school real estate because right now the new tech, even though it works, it's expensive.
So
Uh,
expensive.
and let's go the eyebrow sweat, hit the pavement way.
I got to tell you, I got to back you up for a second. You said even though it works, eating 3 meals a day at McDonald's, it works, but not
Yeah,
really. That's how
right.
that's what Zillow is like heroin. We call it hopium because we think it works, but in reality, it's not sustainable. It doesn't
It's
work,
not
you know.
right.
Beating the
It
streets
may get you
on
some,
the
it may get you
hardware.
potential clients down the road if you keep up with them. But you know, like I said, if you don't have anybody that's wanting to do anything, yeah, you're just kind of spinning your wheels or just kind of spending your money
Yep. You know,
doing it.
if you are trying to market to, for example, one of the things we do is I want to market to military communities. I know that that's what Zillow is doing. Not that they're specifically marketing to military communities, but they're marketing already to the communities that I want to market to, just simply through their processes, by their website, by all the television commercials and online advertisement and all of those things. So one of the things that I do, let's say I want to market to Fort Carson, Colorado, or Fort Bliss or Fort Drum or any of those military installations. I create an ad with myself and one of my listings that I feel like is very attainable for the military market. And then I will go on to Facebook, my business page, and I will create an ad and I will boost that ad. And when you're boosting an ad, it asks you where you want to boost that ad. I will boost that ad in those markets and I will set a budget of $50, $100, something like that. And I won't do it long term. I'll typically do it for, 5 to 7 days. And that is actually one of my more expensive advertising techniques outside of just buying the leads from Zillow is boosting posts. But I will take that listing and I'll go, okay, so I heard through the grapevine that a bunch of people are PCSing from Korea to Fort Cavazos, or from Germany to Fort Cavazos, or from Fort Bliss to Fort Cavazos. Let me go and boost around those areas because when those people are logged onto their Facebook, Facebook knows your location. And so now it picks up my ad, and now you see it in your timeline, and that totally beats what Zillow is trying to do because now I'm offering myself to them with some information on a potential home. And sometimes I will market an advertisement that's very generic. I will say, "Hey, my name is Rick Ott. I am a broker in Central Texas near Fort Cavazos. I have a property that has access to shopping, uh, convenient access to work, that is in a safe neighborhood that'll meet your family's needs. That is it." I don't give a specific address or price point or any other information, because what I want them to think is, oh man, he said he's got a house that meets our needs. Let me click on this and see, you know, and that just ups my chances of getting someone to click through. It's almost like clickbait, but without me dumping a bunch of BS advertising on them. I really do want to help them. And so it leads them to my site where they can go and search for homes, and that's what I want. And that's another way for me to capture their business, is just doing something like that. And we used to do that on Craigslist all the time back when Craigslist was a thing. Is we used to just create very generic advertising, but not too generic. I would say things like, hey, if you're looking to move to Fort Cavazos, Fort Hood back then, if you're looking to move to Fort Hood, I have a home that meets your family's needs. It's in a great neighborhood, great price point, close to everything, close to shopping, grocery stores right down the road, which in reality, what neighborhood doesn't meet that? There's thousands of listings that fall into that. They don't even have to be my listings. I'll still sell it to you. And so that's another method.
Right. Just curiosity that 8,000 that you pay for, what on average do you get potential or referrals, like on an average
So it
month?
generates roughly 8 calls a month. And maybe I'm breaking even, maybe, if I'm lucky.
Right. Right.
And most of the time when I run my spreadsheets, I even got tired of running the spreadsheet on it because I thought, man, every month I'm losing money.
Right.
Why am I doing it? You know, what
And then how do we know, or how would we know what neighborhoods that other homestead agents are prospecting in?
Well, you could ask, but I don't think that matters. I wouldn't put too much thought into that. I would go out there. Well, first of all, where do you live, Albert?
I'm in Temple, but yeah, I'm in Temple, but in other
Well, if
words,
I
I
had
know
to, if I had to
Cove
guess,
a little bit. My wife graduated from Cove back in '87, so of course I know Cove's changed a lot. But yeah, but no, I'm actually in Temple along with
Albert, if you
Joe.
wanted to advertise in Cove or Killeen, you pick a neighborhood and make it your own. Become the expert on that neighborhood and start hitting them. Trust me when I tell you this. If other agents are going to be marketing to every single neighborhood in the state of Texas. That's how that works. But you create your niche and you go out and get them. And the object is to just try to win their business. And if you don't and another agent gets it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything.
And so
Even if it's a homestead agent, it doesn't matter. In fact, I'm going to tell you something, Albert. If you had a gun to my head and told me I had to answer that question, I probably couldn't answer it because I don't really see too much. There's only two other agents that I know that are really farming, and that's Joanna Pierce and Caitlin Knotts. And the reason I know they're farming is I see all the return mail that comes from their efforts. So I know they're sending out hundreds. I think Caitlin sends 1,000 a month. Um,
just
and
postcards or
both postcards and letters.
letters, yeah.
Mhm. Yep. But she lives in Leander. So I mean, it just you pick a neighborhood and plant your flag. I mean, what can anybody say about that? Go get that business. If you want House Creek North, go get it, make it your own. If you want Riata Ranch, go get it. Start marketing. There's plenty of people out there that aren't tied to anybody. And what you want to do is create your opportunities to interview and win their business.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it works. It works, you know. Your goal, become a local celebrity in that neighborhood, whatever neighborhood you pick, you know. And the only way to do that is to keep putting yourself in front of people, whether it's door knocking or mail outs, and then signs in yards. There have been studies, and don't take my word for it, you can look this up. Having your picture, your face on a yard sign, it has way more influence than not.
Than not having it on there, yeah. So see
Correct.
some don't. kind of a mixture of that I see. Yeah.
That's like creating two impressions. When they see it, they see your face and your name.
In
Have
my
you,
case, mug and
yeah, yeah. So do you know what one of the major problems NFL players complain about
mm, no, what's that?
when it comes to their name and their business is there was an NFL player in week one of the season, a rookie. He caught a touchdown pass, ran through the end zone and took his helmet off and went and made sure that his face was on the camera.
Oh,
The reason why he did that was he said later on, we all wear helmets. You can't tell. You don't know what I look like. I wanted to make sure that everybody saw my face. I want to be a
mm,
brand. I want to be a brand. I want people to know what I look like. So when I'm out in public, people see me and know, oh, that's that guy that caught that touchdown pass because it turns into money. When you brand yourself, it turns into money. And he was right. Emmett Smith said the same thing. All those years ago, Emmett Smith said, well, the difference between a football player and a baseball player or a basketball player is they can monetize their image. I can't because I'm always in a helmet, you know.
right. Why he always took it off when he scored.
That's right. So you got to think about that. Putting your face on a yard sign makes a difference. You can monetize your image,
Right.
you know. But good talking to you guys. I've got to let you go. I got another meeting in 10 minutes. What I want to do is I'll send you guys some stuff. Think about it, and maybe by Monday, give me a date or a time later in the month, and we could sit down and do this again.
Okay.
All right. And what we're going to do in the meantime is Albert and I are going to dedicate some time later today or probably tomorrow morning after we process all this and come up with a game plan to what we're actually going to do on a consistent basis to be able to get in front of people, meet people, and just get back to the old school grind.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Good job,
Right.
guys. Joe,
And
Albert.
I guess I need to listen to my wife. In other words, we have our chamber. I do go sometimes, but we have an after hours here, and the Temple Chamber has a monthly after hours, and I've gone to some and others not. So she's encouraged me, hey, we ought to go to that to get yourself out there a little more.
Yep.
So
I want to ask you a question. It's kind of a joke. It's funny, but do you know any CIA agents?
CIA agents, no.
Do you know why? Because they're secret agents. They don't want you to know. I don't want you guys to be secret agents. I want
Gotcha.
you to
Yeah.
get out there and make sure
Right.
everybody knows who you are and what you do, you know?
Yep.
Right.
So good luck.
All right.
We'll sit down and figure this out and let's grow that business.
Thank you.
Sounds
Yes,
good.
sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys. I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.